Alright, fine, I'll talk about what the next collab could be. Get off my back. What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video, and I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. In today's video, we are going to be talking about two distinct possibilities as to what the next collaboration event in the King of Fighters All-Star could possibly be. But before we get into all of that and more, make sure if you guys are new here and you haven't already done so, you smash that like button and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get into today's video. Now, as I mentioned, there are going to be two distinct possibilities for the next collaboration that I am going to be talking about today. However, I want to go ahead and catch everybody up to speed before we get into what those are. First and foremost, for those out there who have not heard, we should be seeing a collaboration in the next 2 to 4 weeks if Netmarble's usual schedule and timeline remains the same. So historically speaking, we typically are going to see a collaboration towards the end of or middle of November, and then that usually will lead us into the holiday season, at which point we'll get into our Christmas banners or Christmas events or whatever they have planned for that holiday. So that is what we are going to be discussing today. However, there is no confirmation from Netmarble themselves on this one way or the other, so keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind, we are not going to be discussing two possibilities in today's video. The first of which is of course going to be Street Fighter, because at this point the odds of us getting a Street Fighter collaboration are about as good as Netmarble fixing the game. And then the other one that we are not going to be discussing is a possible Marvel collaboration, mainly because I just don't see it happening. And then finally, the usual disclaimer applies here, but all of the things that we are going to be talking about in today's video, while there is evidence that could point to the possibility of either of these being the next collaboration event, do keep in mind that we have no confirmation whatsoever, and this is all going to be pure speculation from this point forward. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and talk about which two collaborations I think have the best shot at being the final collab event of 2021. So the first collab possibility that I want to discuss in this video is going to be a rerun of Seven Knights. Now, I know Seven Knights is a collaboration that at the time that it had dropped was very controversial, mainly because of the power creep, which I'm laughing internally after we've seen the amount of power creep that's come after the Seven Knights collaboration, and thinking back to how people freaked out over what we got with characters like Dellins and Eileen. It's just hilarious to think about it, but I digress. But when it comes to a Seven Knights collaboration, this is of course always been a big possibility. However, I do think that there's one major thing going on over at Netmarble right now that could potentially point to this being a possibility, and that is of course the fact that we are a mere 24 hours, actually it's going to be less than 24 hours whenever you guys are watching this video. However, we are 24 hours or less away from the global launch of Seven Knights 2. Now, this is interesting as far as timing is concerned, because of course our next collaboration event, as we've already discussed here, is going to be around here in the next month or so when we start to get some information about it, more than likely. So it would make sense if Netmarble wanted to go ahead and capitalize on the global release of Seven Knights 2, that they would go ahead and give us a second volume for the Seven Knights collaboration. Now, they have done reruns in the past for different collaborations that we've seen. However, that has not been something they have historically done for all collaborations, but considering the fact that Seven Knights is an in-house IP, it is a Netmarble property and a Netmarble baby, there isn't really any contracts that they would have to worry about working out in order to do this, and this would largely be something that would be very easy for them to go ahead and transfer in and do here in the King of Fighters All-Star. If they went ahead and did this, of course this would be good news for everybody who has the previous Seven Knights characters, because more than likely they'd probably be buffing those characters along with releasing new ones. So that would be something that would be really cool. Seven Knights, in my opinion, is a game that does have a lot of potential, and I did really like that Seven Knights collaboration when we originally had it. If you guys remember back, that was actually when we launched this channel. So when it comes to a Seven Knights collaboration or a second volume of a Seven Knights collaboration, I definitely think it is in the cards. If you take a look at the trailer for the global launch of Seven Knights 2, it definitely looks like a really cool game, and it's one I plan on checking out on my own time. But if I were you guys, I would definitely put a lot of thought into the possibility of this being a collaboration collaboration for us come November, in December, somewhere in there. Now, if this were the direction that Netmarble decided to go, undoubtedly there'd be plenty of people out there that would take umbrage with it, but in my opinion, I do think that this would be a very awesome collab if we were to get it, mainly because, again, they would go ahead and probably buff the pre-existing Seven Knights characters. More than likely, they'd re-release them along with new ones. We'd probably get a couple of SS Seven Knights characters. We'd probably get reruns of those old events, of which there were plenty in that collaboration, and then we would more than likely get new events along with it too, maybe a tower or something along those lines, like what we saw with Dead or Alive 6. So in my opinion, I think Seven Knights 2 has a really good shot at being the next collaboration. However, time will tell. Now let's talk about the second option, and this is also going to be a potential rerun or a potential sequel collaboration for a collaboration that we've already gotten. However, this is going to be one that we have gotten far more recently, and that is of course going to be Seven Deadly Sins. Now with this one, if you guys haven't already heard, as of today, the Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross is collaborating with the King of Fighters again. Now this is of course going to be a rerun collaboration for that game, but it's interesting timing that they are bringing it around right now. So being that they did decide that they were going to collaborate with the King of Fighters again this November, I do think that this might indicate that there is potential that we could see Seven Deadly Sins be the next collaboration. There was a couple of different tips and a few things that some people had picked up on when we originally got Seven Deadly Sins as a collaboration, mainly that Netmarble themselves referenced it as part 1. So there could be a part 2 to Seven Deadly Sins being a collaboration in the King of Fighters All-Star. This could also explain the odd choices for characters in that first run. Mainly people were complaining about the fact that Escanar was not a character that was released with that collaboration initially. One could definitely see why Netmarble would be incentivized in order to give us this, because of course Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross is going to be one of their biggest money makers and is one of their most popular games at this point. So if they wanted to do this, I think that there would be plenty of people out there that would be excited about it. Now, whether or not Netmarble would decide that they would be buffing the characters that we had already gotten in Volume 1, who knows? There is of course that potential there, but being the fact that those characters released more recently than the Seven Knights characters, they might just decide not to make it a rerun and just go for a whole new batch of characters and events. But that's getting a little bit deep into the weeds when it comes to the speculation even for this video, so I'm not really going to get into that. However, if they wanted to go ahead and make good on the disappointment that happened around the time of that first collaboration and give everybody the characters that they were hoping for from that initial run, like an Escanar, maybe as an SS version of that character, of course that would make a lot of people out there very happy. So this is something that for me personally, you guys know my opinions on Seven Deadly Sins as a collaboration if you've been following the channel since the original run. I'm not necessarily a huge fan. It's not really a collaboration that I got very excited for, outside of a character like maybe a Merlin or somewhere in those lines, like King, something like that. Then outside of those two, I wasn't really that into it, but I do think that there would be plenty of people out there, especially if they got their Escanar, would be very happy. Now, in the end, which one of these two options do I think has the best possibility? If you guys have been kind of paying attention, I've already told you guys what I think has the best possibility at this point. I had referenced it in a previous video. I think out of the two options, Seven Knights has the best potential of being the next collaboration. To me, it just makes sense if that's the direction they want to go with. It's cheap, it's easy, it's something they already can fully control. They're trying to capitalize on Seven Knights 2 being dropped globally. So for me, I think that it makes sense. That, and it would be kind of poetic for the fact that we had gotten it a year ago, around the time that we would be getting this next collaboration. It would be like a 1-year anniversary of the last run of Seven Knights in the game. So if they wanted to add new characters and rerun it potentially, then that would be something that I could definitely see Netmarble going for. But time will tell. There's really no way to confirm any of this stuff. This is all, again, just going to be wild speculation on our part. But at the same time, I do think that with the evidence in front of us, that these are probably going to be two of the front runners for possibilities. Of course, there's plenty of possibilities. The world of possibilities out there when it comes to collaborations is very vast, so there's not much that we can do to narrow it down outside of that. There's plenty of different options out there, and typically Netmarble is going to pull something out of their hat that is going to be a complete surprise to everybody. So time will tell, but you guys let me know in the comment section down below what you think the next collaboration could be. I've had a ton of people asking me my opinions, so hopefully this clears the air and gives everybody full clarity on what I'm expecting. But with all of that being said, you guys, I will talk to you all in the next one. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and until then, you all take care. Peace.
Continue.